And we are live. We are
Hey.
live. Good day, everyone. Good day. I see I have one viewer already. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Shadz Lifestyle, and this is Shadz Talk Show. It is going to be actually a series where I invite experts to come and teach you or share tips on just how to build yourself professionally. Just basically anything that will benefit you. And today we have a lot in store for us. As you know, last week we did a resume, how to write the perfect resume. And you know, this world, what we're living in now, it's very, I don't know, unpredictable. And so the format has changed and some of the things want to be tweaked. And so we provided you with some of the insights of how to write the perfect resume. And because you know how to write the perfect resume, you have now gone to interview stage. So you qualify now to become an interviewee, right? And today we have an international speaker with us. Thank you so much. Her name is LaShawn Davis. And LaShawn, she is, she calls herself the workplace fixer. She is the mastermind of transforming dysfunctional workplace culture, and she has expertise in HR management. And so I think that she will be perfect for this session today. You know what? I saw her on TikTok. I'm scrolling on TikTok and I saw Lachine on TikTok and I'm like, whoa. And I went through her page like just like that, and I saw where she had the need. She wanted persons to know what HR managers are looking for, or what you can say in an interview, and even resume writing to become more professional, to nail that job, to get that job. And so I am going to call Lashane, sorry, to introduce herself more. Tell me about your business. I will put your Instagram page in this in the comment section. But just tell me more, and so
Sure.
that the person can get to know you. My audience is from age 18 to about 34, and I
Okay.
did mention to her that we are recent graduates are less, not much experience, so she knows my target audience. So what
Yeah.
I want from you, my audience, is to tell me which job position you are looking for, or some of the questions you want Lashane to answer, and just enjoy today's session, right?
Yes.
So, Lashane, you can go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. Excited to talk about our topic today. But just so you all know who I am and what makes me a great person to talk about this, let me tell you about myself. So I'm LaShawn Davis. I am the owner and founder of the HR Plug. And the HR Plug just really started out as a lot of people who knew me through the professional world, through the corporate world, constantly or continually asking me questions. How do I did this? How do I promote? How do I get a job? Can you help me with my resume? So everybody just started calling me the plug. Like, you're the plug for HR, you're the HR plug. So, from that, I evolved into turning that into my company, the HR plug. And so, what I primarily do is I try and help, whether it's leaders, supervisors, managers, employees, colleagues, or whomever, have the best experience while they're at work. And or help them get to a place where they're happy at work. Sometimes that means I work with leaders and helping them be better leaders so that they know how to take care of the employees. And sometimes that's helping employees navigate through where they are versus where they would like to be, because sometimes we're miserable because we're just not in our career, we're just in a job because we need a paycheck. So it's really about navigating through all of that and getting everyone in a place of peace where they can thrive and be their best selves. So that's what my company is based on. And so in that, we do leadership development, we do professional development, we do resumes, and we do interviewing to just kind of help you speak as confident as you are, so that when you go to get a job or when you go to ask for that promotion, people believe it, that you're worth it, or that you're worth hiring. And so that's kind of what we do. And I'm just excited to be here today.
Wow, thank you so much. Thanks a lot. All right, so you mentioned to me, that today's topic is about mastering the interview,
Yes.
getting that job, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
so you told me that the interview is not just about the interview. We have three different steps in the interview process. So just take me to the different type of steps you need to actually prepare for an interview.
Sure. So, as she explained, the interview process is not just about showing up on the day that the company invites you for the interview and answering questions. It is way more than that. And the way you start is before you even get the interview. You have to
Okay.
prepare for the interview. So, the recruiter reaches out to you, or the person at the company, the hiring manager reaches out to you, and they say, hey, we really liked that you applied for this job and we want to talk to you about it. Can we schedule some time with you? And you're like, sure. Before that day, there are some things that you should do. And so I call the first step before the interview. So before you even show up to talk to the individuals and explain to them why you deserve the job, there are some things you need to do. And the first thing you need to do is determine, is this a company that you even want to work for? You want
Right.
to research this company and you want to see, are they someplace that you would really want to work? Because sometimes, no matter if a company pays you well or they gave you this great offer, if a culture is toxic and you're going to be miserable, it is not worth it. So there are some ways that you can research a company before you even go into the interview. And the ways that I recommend doing that is, number one, if you don't have a LinkedIn, create a LinkedIn profile and see who you're connected with that might also work at that company. So you may know someone in your network or in your circle that already works for this company, and then you can ask them, how has your experience been working here? What is it like? And ask them any questions that you want to know. So if they say to you, oh my gosh, I'm trying to get out of here, it's a crazy place, that lets you know right then and there that might not be some place that you want to work. Okay. So, number two, after speaking to people who you may know, let's say you don't know anybody who works here, you want to go look at their social media pages and you want to just Google the name of the company, see what comes up. On a website called Glassdoor, if you put the company's name in, it will tell you real life reviews from people who work there. It will tell you the pros and cons about working there, and it'll give you insight into the business from people who have no stake in the game. So it's not the people who are trying to hire you or convince you to come on board. These are people who don't even know you're interviewing and they're just telling you about their experience. You also want to look at the company's social media. What have they been in the news about lately? What are they talking about on Twitter? What does their Instagram pages look like? What are people commenting on their pages? These are all things that give you insight into that company that you're interviewing for. And it'll also give you things to be prepared about, to talk about in your interview. So when you're researching, take note of what are they doing in the community, or what are they known for right now, or what is a big push that they have right now. And you want to jot that stuff down, or what is something that they are really proud about, that they boast about on their website. Because when you go to your interview, if you're able to speak to those things, then you're able to make a connection, and that's what makes you memorable. So definitely before your interview, you're going to want to research, ask who you know that might work there, look on Glassdoor and other internet websites that give job reviews from people who've actually worked there. Check out their website and social media pages, and that will all give you a different scope to look into at the company that you're seeking to potentially interview for. So that would be the
Okay.
first step.
And some of us pass this stage and just go straight on to the interview because
Uh-huh.
what you actually told me that's really good. We have to ensure that we want to work for that company. It's not just
Right.
about the money, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
so tell me more about when I am going into the interview, how important it is to with my dressing. How does
Sure.
that work? What are
Yep.
the color codes, and seeing that we're all fashionable beings, how do we go in the professional work or an interview? What's the dress code?
Sure. So that's going to kind of take us into step two, right? Going as you're preparing for the interview, you're going to want to look the part. You want to match the culture of the company that you're going to work for. And you want to align with not the position that you're interviewing for, but the position 2 levels above that. So if you are going in, let's say for an entry level job, you're just getting out of, you're just graduating and this is your first job interviewing your first job, but you know it's an entry level role. Even if you're doing something outside, even if you know that you're going to be in a uniform, you're going to want to dress like you run the company. You want to look like when you walk in there that this person came to do business. Okay. You got to take pride in what you look like if you want them to take pride in you, right? So definitely take the time to make sure that your clothes are clean, that they're ironed, that they're not wrinkled, and that you're wearing neutral colors. Okay. You don't want to wear lime green, neon yellow, or anything that's bright, because what happens is it can distract the interviewer. Okay. So you don't want to wear or show anything that distracts the interviewer. Like, especially like, let's say you have tattoos, and there's nothing wrong with that because I have tattoos, right? But when I'm going to an interview, I don't showcase that because you don't want to have anything that distracts the person that you're speaking with from you and the talents that you're bringing. So you definitely want to stick to neutral colors, the blacks, the browns, the blues, cool colors, warm colors like reds, yellows, and oranges. You want to stay away from, because believe it or not, colors bring energy. Okay. And so if you're wearing all red, you're bringing on a glaring, bright, kind of energy. Red means stop sign. When people see red, they stop. And so you don't want to have that energy in the room or in the atmosphere. So wear something neutral. Try to stick to solid colors, nothing that's going to be too much of a distraction. Because when you walk in that interview, you want the attention to be on your skill set and what you're bringing to the table, not what you look like. And the last thing to say about that is be mindful if you wear any type of cologne or perfume. I've actually sat in interviews where people have come too strong with the perfume, and it becomes distracting to the point where people want to hurry up and finish the interview so you can leave. And so if you do like to wear perfume or colognes, try to limit it or just go without it, because you don't know if the people you're interviewing with have allergies or
Right.
sensitivities and things like that. So just be mindful of that as well.
Okay, thanks for that. Now look here. I I did a module in a course in college, and I will forever talk about this course. It's called Professionalism in Organization. And I can tell you that to this day, that knowledge has imparted on my life to
Wow.
this day. I remember my first interview in last year, and I dressed to the T because I know what to expect. Light
Mhm,
makeup. I wore a jacket suit, which is
mhm.
black. They want to wear black, neon, is it not neon? Dark blue,
Neutral.
navy blue, sorry,
Mhm.
navy blue, probably gray, but something that speaks to you. Also, the heels for women. No, I am very about 5'9". So 5'9". But you want to ensure that you have on your heels, whether it be
Mhm,
a low heel or a little heel, to
mhm.
ensure that that gives you that boost, that little confidence. And trust me, it will work.
It
For
makes a difference.
yeah, it makes a lot of difference.
Mhm.
And dress code is really, really important when it comes to interview. Now
Yes.
we are going into the nitty gritty, and what this means is the core of this live session.
Mhm.
And welcome to my channel. For those who are new here, do subscribe to my channel and click that like button so that YouTube can recommend me. Also, today's live session is about mastering the interview, getting that job. And this is really important. I did this session because I noticed we're coming on TV speaking about not being employed or some of the challenges that we may have. I noticed that some person's resume wasn't updated, and also persons don't know how to properly prepare for an interview. So, proper preparation prevents poor performances. And
Mm-hmm.
today we are going to be prepared for an
Yes.
interview. So, what I want from you, my audience, is to tell me what you want us to answer, the questions you want us to answer today in this live session. Comment on some of the positions that you want her to share, some of the tips that probably she can share what an interviewer will ask, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to go into the questions that they
Sure.
typically ask within an
Okay.
interview, right? They normally ask, like, tell me about yourself, which is like an icebreaker. But
Mhm.
what does it mean? What do HR managers look for when you are answering this question?
Right. So when they're saying, tell me about yourself, they're trying to see if what you say about yourself aligns to the type of personality or the type of person they're looking for. And what I mean by that is if I say to you, tell me about yourself and you can't even talk about yourself, then that's going to be a problem because the whole basis of the interview is to sell yourself. And it's important to only share the things that are relevant for the job. So
Okay.
if they're saying, tell me about yourself, you may not want to say, well, I'm LaShawn. My birthday is January the 7th. My favorite color is hot pink. I love swimming. Like, that's not what they're looking for. They want you to say, tell me about myself. Hi, my name is LaShawn. I actually like like whatever that it is at the job that you're that you're interviewing for, you want to tie in things that you do about you that align with that job. So I am a very practical person, right? As I explained to you. So I'm going to give you an example of tell me about myself, what you could say that would be acceptable, and then give you an example of what most people say that could use a little bit of improvement. Okay. So what you don't want to say, this is what you do not want to say when they say, tell me about yourself. Okay. You don't want to say, hi, my name is Susan, and I haven't had a job for 6 months. And so I'm really hoping that this job goes well because I need a job. I have bills to pay, and I'm just really happy that I'm here. I'm a hard worker. I come to work on time, and I just really need this job. Okay. So that's what you don't want to do. You're telling about yourself, yes, but you don't want to make that part negative, and you don't want the company to feel like, well, if you haven't worked for 6 months, why hasn't anybody else hired you? Right. So you
Okay.
want to be mindful of what you're saying. What you want to say, if that was the same situation, you haven't worked in 6 months, right? And they're asking you that question, like, tell me about yourself. You want to say something like, hi, my name is Susan. I'm excited to be here. I'm a very driven person. My work ethic is great. I always like to prioritize and do the things that are most important, but I still make sure that I get everything done that I commit to doing. I'm strong willed. I'm a great communicator, and I'm just truly excited to have an opportunity to talk to you today. You see the difference? I didn't say that I didn't work for 6 months, but I said that I'm driven because for 6 months I've been looking for a job. So it's the same, it's the same type of thing, but you want to use adjectives and verbs that about you that will translate well into the job that you're applying for. Okay. So you want to talk about things that are positive, that you excel in, or things that you are strong in, and make that about you so that when they hear it, they say, oh, wow, work ethic, we need some of that on this team. And then they can relate to you.
Nice. 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 Um, I see a lot of persons on my live. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for liking. I see everyone, but I'm just going to go into the questions. If you don't have any questions right now, right? The next question is like when they say, why should we hire you? And you can also use examples of jobs. So whether it be like a manager for like a bank manager or some,
Mm-hmm.
give me an example. When they say,
Sure.
why should we hire you? What are they looking for in this question?
Sure. So when they're asking, why should we hire you? They're wanting to know what value are you going to bring to this organization? So a lot of people want to tell them, I need a job, I need this, I need that. But when they're asking you this question, they're wanting to know what you bring to the table. And so the best way to answer that, especially using your example as a bank manager, if you're a bank manager and they're saying, why should we hire you? You're going to want to talk about your success as a bank manager in other companies, or your success as a bank teller in other companies that has led you to expressing interest in this bank manager role. So you might say something like, you should hire me because I am very well versed in the banking industry. I have 10 years experience as a bank teller. And the last 2 years, I have been training and developing myself for a bank manager role. I have, that's what you kind of want to say. Why? What are you going to bring of value to the position that you're interviewing for? So make what you say be about you, your work experience, your strong competencies relating to the position that you're applying for.
Okay. And what about my strength? When they ask you, tell me about your greatest strength or your greatest or your weakness,
Weaknesses.
how do I answer that? Because it's
Yeah,
difficult.
I hate when they ask that, but it's like everybody asks that, right? I want to say like, what's your weakness, right? But no, don't do that. So it's a common question because people like to see, the reason they ask that is they want to see how you assess yourself. And they want to see, do you have a sense of self-awareness, right? If you can't think of something that you need to develop or have an opportunity with, then they may think that you don't have a level of self-awareness about you to think that you're perfect or you don't have any areas of opportunity, where we all know we have areas of opportunity, or, in areas to showcase our strength. So I'm going to start with the weakness part first, because this is always the hardest for people to answer, right? Because it's like, you want me to tell you something bad when I'm trying to get this job? You want me to tell you like what I'm not good at? Then what if you don't hire me? So let me tell you a trick to answering that question, okay? When they ask you what's your weakness or what's an area that you can improve on or have opportunities with, right? When they say what's your weakness, you want to rephrase the question back to them when you answer it, and you want to say, my areas of opportunity are. So you don't want to say my weaknesses just because they said it. Just flip that to say areas of opportunity, and your response already sounds a little bit more positive, okay? Then you want to say an area that's an opportunity that's also kind of a good thing. So let me give you some examples. If you say to me, LaShawn, what is an area of weakness for you? Or what, an answer that I might say to you is, my area of opportunity is just remembering to execute work-life balance. Sometimes I get so caught up in work and I'm working so hard that I forget to do things for myself, and I forget to do things for me because I'm so committed to reaching this goal or reaching the objective that I'm working on. And I have to remind myself that without me being my best self and getting the proper rest and balancing my personal life with my work life, I really won't be myself, my best self at work. So the area of opportunity that I'm working on is just managing my work-life balance a little bit better. So you see, they're not going to be really upset that you say you're a hard worker, right? So it's a weakness because I need to be better about taking time for me and taking care of me at the same time. So when you're answering that question, you don't want to say things like, my weakness is I can't get to work on time. Like, even no matter how hard I try and I get up, I'm always 5-10 minutes late. Like, punctuality is not a weakness that you want to say, because it's going to be something that they need. So think of your weaknesses as areas that are not bad. So like another example, like let's say you don't want to say the work-life balance one, you could say, an area of opportunity for me is to get more outside education and experience in my area. Like, I have great on-the-job experience, but what I really would like to do is really invest time in getting a certification or going to take some courses that's really going to enhance my skill sets even more, so that I can be a better contributor in this area. So those are ways that you can answer that question. And
Okay.
okay, go ahead.
I don't really, that question is very tricky for me. And so I was analyzing like what are my weaknesses. And so I came up with problem solving in terms of like work issues with your like coworker. So
Mhm.
is that a thing that I could say, and how would you phrase it? So
Sure. Yeah. So let's say your weakness is that you try to solve everybody's problems. I mean, that's another great example because people want people who take initiative to come up with resolutions, right? But sometimes you got to let other people come up to them on their own. So the way I would answer that question is I would say, an area of opportunity for me is sometimes allowing other people to grow and develop so that they can come to their own solutions on things. A lot of times I try to be the problem solver for them because I can quickly see a resolution, but I have to learn how to sometimes let people navigate through those spaces on their own and guide them to the answers instead of telling it for them. So that's how I would answer that one.
Nice. And what about your strength? Do you want to comment
Yeah.
like on, for me, would I say I find public speaking to be one of my passion, one of my strengths? How
Yeah.
would you answer
Okay.
that today?
So with strength, there's two ways you can do it. You can talk about a skill set if the skill set is relevant for the job. So like public speaking, writing, creativity, things like that. I'm a great artist. So depending on the type of job that you're looking for, if you know the skill sets that are necessary for that job, then you want to say that. So if we take the bank teller example, I don't even know a bank teller, but I'm hoping that one watches this episode because they're going to get a lot of good stuff. But let's say we're a bank teller and I want to talk about my strengths. I can say, I'm really good at customer service and I understand that it takes a lot of patience and I don't let situations get me frazzled. I can maintain composure when other people are upset. Like, so those are the things that you're going to want to say because those are things that a bank teller manager would need to have. So when you list your strengths, let them be something relatable to the job or a skill set that's going to be necessary for you to be successful in the role. The other play you can take on strengths is to do soft skills. And so soft skills would be like what I say when people ask me this question. And a friend that I was talking to the other day, I was telling her she was really strong in this, is emotional intelligence. And that's a key
Nice.
term that if you mention that in an interview, you're already going to, get some bonus points because a lot of companies are looking for emotional intelligence, but a lot of people don't know what emotional intelligence is. So even if you have it, you don't even know you have it to even say it. And so if this is you and they ask you what your strength is, this is what I want you to say. Emotional intelligence is a person's ability to read another person and understand how to deal with that person based on how they're feeling. So if I'm having a conversation with somebody and maybe I'm really harsh, you've not been coming to work on time, and then I see that person starting to cry or starting to get emotional by the way that I'm talking to them, my emotional intelligence tells me I need to back down, let me calm down, let me maybe go to an area that's in a room and let me tailor my communication style to how that person's emotions are, how they're feeling. So a lot of companies are looking for people who have a strong sense of emotional intelligence because it helps minimize risk, it helps minimize conflict, and it helps to make sure that people feel important and valued. So if you have an ability to be relatable with other people and can read off of their energy and emotions, that's definitely a strength that you always want to say in every interview. My strength is that I have a strong sense of emotional intelligence. I know how to tailor my behavior and my conversations to meet the needs of the person that I'm dealing with based on their responses and emotions. So that's a strength that anybody can really say and use that will give you bonus points.
Okay. One of the other questions that is really tricky is the one that says, "Why do you want to leave your current job?" How
Hmm.
do I answer this question? Because, like, I want to leave it for more money. Like, this is why we're here. So, do I just say, like, "Ooh," how do I approach the question?
I mean, great question. And I get this question a lot. But no, you don't want to say you're leaving it for more money because if you say, I'm leaving this job for more money, then the person interviewing you or that company might say, well, if somebody else offers you more money than we pay you, you might leave us too. And then they don't want to proceed with you. So you never want to say why you're leaving your current job. You don't want it to be anything that has to do with where you're working or where you worked in the past. Your answer should not be about that. So you should never say, I'm leaving because that workplace is crazy. I'm leaving because I don't like my supervisor. I'm leaving because they don't pay enough. I'm leaving because I don't like the benefits. Like anything tied to that job is not the reason you want to say why you're leaving. So the safe answer when they're asking you, why do you want to leave the job that you're currently in, is to make it about you. You want to say, I'm always looking for ways to grow and develop myself. And currently at my current job, I've kind of reached a plateau where the roles above me are either out of the state and I'm not up for relocation, or you can say, I want a diversity experience and my other job is in this industry and I'm really looking to transition in this industry to help me stretch and grow myself more. You always want to make it about you, and the reason you're leaving or looking is because you want to grow and develop and learn something new versus making it about the real reason why you might be leaving or about that company.
Okay. Any question from my audience? Any questions? Just leave it down below so that we can answer it. Another question is, um, sorry.
No
Tell
problem.
me about a time you made a mistake. How
So
do
yeah, that is often a common question too. So tell me about a time. So those questions are called behavioral based interviewing questions. Okay, behavior based interviewing questions. Anytime they're saying, tell me about a time when you, or tell me how you X, Y, and Z. Anytime they're asking you to explain your behavior in something, it's called a behavior based question. So the answer that they're looking for is what you did or how you performed or the steps you took that caused that result. So anytime you're asked a behavioral based interview, you want to start with the situation, what the situation was, the actions that you took to resolve the situation, and then what was the final result. You want to say situation, the actions you took, and the result. So when they're asking me or they're asking you, tell me about a time you made a mistake, you want to talk about the situation, right? The situation was we were in the middle of a hurricane preparedness and there were a lot of things going and we had to evacuate the building. And there was a roster I was collecting that had everybody's names and phone numbers on it. And I accidentally left the roster in the building when we had to evacuate. So there was no way for me to contact folks after the storm to make sure everything was okay. And that was a huge mistake that I made. So that's the situation, okay? Once you say the situation, then you want to talk to the actions. What did you do about it, right? You don't want to just end there saying the mistake, because then you're not going to fully answer the question, right? So then you're going to talk
right?
about the actions. So then what did you do? So what I did was I knew that a peer of mine was still in the building, and so I quickly got in contact with them because I remembered exactly where I left the list and asked them to go grab it for me or see if anybody else was able to grab it for me before they left, because they were still in the building because they were releasing us alphabetized, right? Or something to that effect. So that's the action I took. I thought quickly on my feet to get somebody else who was still in there to get that list for me. And then the results. Now you're going to want to tell the interviewer, so what happened at the end? Did they get the list? Did the list stay? You don't want to leave them hanging. And then you can say the result was somebody else actually saw that I left the list there and they were able to grab it for me. So the coworker didn't even in the end need to go and get it for me. They saw that I left it and they actually bought the list to me. And that's the close-knit, the relationships that I have with others. They were kind enough to do that for me. So that was how that ended. We were still able to have the list and still able to contact everyone after the hurricane. So you see how I walked through the situation, the actions I took, and then the result. That's what they're looking for when you're answering any type of behavioral based interview question.
Understand perfectly, right? So now I'm seeing some questions and we really appreciate it. So
Okay.
first, um, Anika, we did answer that question. She's saying, why should we hire you? So I'm going
Mhm.
to say it live so you can rewatch it. And then Abigail says, how do you relate that you're a student, but can give your 100% on the job. So you're a student and you still want the job, but how do you tie in that you're a student and you still can be a good professional?
Sure, because sometimes people feel like you're going to be distracted from school, so I don't want to hire you. And you want to be able in your interview showcase that even though I'm in school, I'm still committed to your job. And so the way you relate that is there's a couple of things you can do. So for one, when you're answering your questions, don't be afraid to say you're a student. You know,
Okay.
and if you say, be upfront and transparent about it. I'm a student right now, but I am totally committed to enhancing these skill sets so that when I graduate, I'm able to secure a job because I've already secured the experience. This is important to me because I understand that work experience is necessary to get ahead in the career world. This is important to me because the skills that I'm going to get from this job will truly balance what I'm able to offer you in this job. You have to sell yourself as I'm going to give you so much more or just as much as I'm going to get from you, and that I recognize the importance of this job. This just isn't a hobby for me. I take this seriously because I know that this is the foundation for the rest of my life. I will
Wow.
eventually leave school, but I will be working for years and years to come. And so I need to make sure that while I'm doing school, I have the ability, I want you to understand that I have the ability to multitask. I can still focus on school and do what I need to do, but I understand that it's equally as important for me to gain this job experience so that when I graduate, I'm able to get a job. So when you tie it together, let them understand the importance that you recognize having this job that you're trying to get is for you and your development. And then you can also let them know there are things that I'm going to learn in a job that school won't teach me. And in order for me to be a well-rounded individual, I need to make sure that I am positioning myself to do well academically, but also be able to do well professionally. And that's what this job is going to do for me. So you can't make them think that the schooling is more important. They have to understand from you that it is equally as important because it's filling a gap that you're going to need long term once you're out of school. And tie that into why you're the best person for this job. I think that I can relate to customers that are in school or my age because they see that I work here. I think that the community and other people will be honored that you are giving people like me an opportunity to gain these skills. So think about what the positive things that can do with your company. And the last thing too is if you're a student and you're trying to get a job at some place and you want them to recognize that you know your stuff, is when you research that company, look at what they're doing in the community and talk about how whatever they're doing in the community affected you. So you can say, I saw that you guys did this back to school drive and I was actually able to benefit from that. And that's really what made me want to work here because I love what you're doing for the community. I love how you're helping people like me be successful in school. So when I'm not in school and when I'm not studying, I want to continue to build myself. And that's why I chose your place to come and apply to and come work at because I want to be a part of what you're doing. When you make them feel good about themselves, they're going to feel good about you. And so that's how you can do that.
Nice, nice. I really appreciate that question and how you
Yeah.
answered it. Now, Anika is saying basically if you were terminated for your previous job, how do you answer this question? What is the reason why you what is the reason why you left this job? Or why did you left it? What is the
Why did you
reason why
leave
you
your last job? Right. So basically, you don't have to tell them that you were fired or you were terminated, right? There are ways to say that without saying it. So I'm not saying be dishonest, but what I'm saying is the reason that you're not working there anymore. If they say, why are you no longer at your other job, is what I think she's trying to say. Not necessarily that you left, but you're not there. You can always say the same thing. I'm no longer where I was because I believe in continuing to push myself to grow to the next level. This opportunity is the next level for me. Like, just keep it focused on you. There are so many things that I learned from my last last job, that I'm ready to take all of that and apply it to someplace new with different perspectives and things like that. So you did learn a lot, right? You were terminated, so you learned what not to do, but you don't have to tell them that. You could just tell them, I learned a lot, and now I'm ready to take everything that I learned and apply it here. So there are still ways to answer that question, that you're still being honest without necessarily saying that I was fired or I was let go. Just basically keep it simple to, I am in a position where I am ready to grow and take everything that I've learned there and apply it in my next role. And if you keep it there, I think that's the safest answer based on that situation.
Nice, nice, nice. Anika does appreciate that answer
You're
very
welcome, Anika. You're so welcome.
right. So this question that I'm going to ask you, like when I wrote it down, I was laughing because one of the interviews that I went on, they asked me this question. They said, "How do you handle stress?" And hear me say no. This is what I said. I said, I don't let anything stress me, I just leave it all to God. Because I didn't know what to say. I
Right?
didn't know what to say. So how
Mm-mm.
do you answer a question like, how do you handle stress?
Right. I mean, that's a good one too, because they're going to want to see how you handle pressure. Are you going to crack? Are you going to buckle? And I think the best way I would answer that question, if they ever ask you that, how do you handle stress? I would say to them, there are definitely things and moments in life that stress us all out. I think we've all experienced stress. When you start with that, you're reminding them that, hey, you get stressed out too, so don't act like it's just me, right? So you want to
Right.
remind them, we all get stressed. So I mean, this is such a great question because we all get stressed. But here's what I do when I'm stressed. Sometimes I just take a moment to breathe, whether that's just 30 seconds, whether that's just walking away from the computer, whether that's just closing my eyes for a moment, whether that's just saying, I need a quick restroom break, and then I just step away from the situation. And then I just breathe, I meditate, I pray. Whatever it is that gets you to a place of calm is how you explain. That's what I do when I get in stressful situations. Or you can say, sometimes if I feel overwhelmed, because sometimes they don't say stress, they say overwhelmed is another word that they will use that's synonymous with stress. You can say, I take a step back and I look at everything that I'm tackling and I'm juggling right now. And then I just decide, what am I going to focus on? Because I'm recognizing I can't focus on everything. So I decide and I prioritize based on everything that's on my plate, what has to be done first, what has to be done second, and so forth. And I put my energy and attention there because I recognize I'm not a superhero, and I recognize that I can't give my best self to the company if I'm not being my best self and understanding where my limits are. So when I feel overwhelmed or when I feel myself getting stressed out, I write down everything that I have on my plate on a piece of paper, and then I prioritize it and I focus on what's the important thing for that moment. Those are two ways that you can answer that question, if it's an immediate stress or a long-term stress. But the important thing is reminding them that we all get stressed, I know, right? And then really talking about what you do to help minimize your stress levels.
I am definitely going to save this live and I'm going to write down what you said word
Uh-huh.
for word because
Mm-hmm.
that was awesome. How you answered that question. Wow,
Yeah.
just wow. Um, when they ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are they looking for? Why? What's the reason behind this question to that point?
Right. So a lot of times they ask that question is because they want to see where your commitment level is to them, to be honest. It's very, I don't want to say this the wrong way. It's not so much that they care about what you're doing, really. It's not. They want to know, are you leaving us in 6 months? Are you leaving us in a year? So if you say in 5 years, I see myself actually, living in a different country, going on Broadway, acting, and you're not applying for anything to do with that, they may not be too keen on hiring you because they know that your commitment level isn't there. And maybe you don't see yourself working at this company for 5 years, and that's okay. And so the best way to answer that question is not to really say what you're going to be doing 5 years from now, or what you want to be doing 5 years from now, because that could turn them off if it's not what they want to hear you say. And you don't know what they want to hear you say. A lot of mistakes a lot of people make with that question is they say, well, in 5 years, I hope to be married with maybe 5 kids and, whatever. You don't want to bring personal life into it as well, right? Even though that might be your goal, you want to be married with kids in 5 years. That's none of their business. They want to know about professionally where you see yourself. And so what you can say is, my 5-year plan for me has me continuing to grow in this role. So right now I'm applying for the bank manager position, but in 5 years from now, I'd like to be a bank director, or I like to be a regional manager, like whatever the next level is for the job that you're in. That's where you say you want to see yourself 5 years from now, because what that tells your interviewer is, oh, okay, she's committed to this industry. She's looking to grow herself. She's not looking to just be here and collect a paycheck. She has goals. He has ambitions. Those are the things that they're looking for when you answer that question. So again, make it about you and the position you're applying for, and say that in 5 years, I see myself in the position 2 levels above here, or, whatever you're applying for. If you're a teacher, I see myself as an administrator in education. If you're a bank teller, I see myself as a regional director, whatever it is. If you are a nurse, like a CNN, I see myself as a certified, whatever is in your industry and whatever's in your position, just say in 5 years, you see yourself 2 levels above that. Safest answer.
Nice, nice. Whoa, this session.
Yes.
Like, if you guys are not happy with this session, just let me know, because I'm well happy. I am well happy. This is a very informative session, and I'm so
Awesome.
happy for this session. Um, and I'm just wrapping up. If you have any
Sure.
more questions, my audience, just comment so I can ask. But one of the questions I want to ask is, when they say, do you have any questions for me? Sometimes we get flustered and we probably say no. But how do we approach this question? Do we have to say something? What should we do?
So this is actually going to be my next TikTok. So your audience will get the answer first, because everybody asks this question. And not only do they ask, but they say, I don't know what to say, especially like if you've already been through 3 interviews and this is your fourth one. So you have all the information that you already asked. I don't know what to say. So what I say to answer this question, okay, number one, you don't say no. When you say no, it's telling the interviewer that you're not interested, because anytime you're interested in something, you have questions. You always have questions because you want to know more, or you want to know something about it, because that's how excited you are about it. So if you say, no, I don't have any questions, like, so you have nothing to ask about our whole conversation, like that's what people are thinking. So you always want to ask a question. But the question you don't want to ask is, even though people say ask this question, like, so what are your next steps? Duh, it's to finish the interviewing process, right? Don't ask questions that are obviously obvious, right? Because sometimes they'll say, oh, we hope to have an answer in 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks comes, you still haven't heard anything. And it's a month later and they're just getting back to you, right? So really, what's the point in asking that question? So don't ask, what are the next steps? Another question that people ask that I try to say don't ask is, well, why is this position open, or what happened to the last person that was in this job? So a lot of people ask that question because they're trying to understand that the person quit, or what is this position hard, or they're trying to find insight about why it's vacant. A lot of companies will lie to you and tell you, oh, it's a new role, so we've not had anybody in it. And that doesn't really help you make a decision. So I said all of that to say, always ask a question, and let the question that you ask be something that's going to give you information about the culture there, and to help you decide if you want to work for them too, because an interview goes both ways. It's not just them choosing you to work there. It's also, like we said earlier, you choosing if you want to work there. So when they say, do you have any questions for us? It's always your opportunity to ask them things that will help you make a decision whether or not this is a place you want to work. So the question that I ask every interview that I do no matter who I'm interviewing with. I can have 15 interviews. I ask every interviewer this question. I say, what keeps you working here? I ask them that because I want to know, why do you work here? Why haven't you left? And what keeps you working here? And the way they answer that is really going to tell you things. So if they're like, I don't know why I work here, that's going to tell you something. If they're like, oh my gosh, I work here because I love the benefits, they're very flexible with the schedule, and it's very conducive to my lifestyle, that's going to help you, and that's going to help you make a decision as well. And the good thing about that question is, no matter who you interview with, the answer will always be the answer won't always be the same. It'll always be different because everyone has a different experience. So I always say, what keeps you working here? And that will tell you about the culture. Another question that you can always ask too is, what is your favorite benefit offering that they have here? What benefit do you like the most? That's also going to give you insight into the culture there. So if they say, oh, our benefit package is horrible, what is that going to tell you? Oh, well, I don't know if I want to work here because, or if they say, my benefit, the best benefit I love working here are the bonuses. Like when we perform well, we can get a good bonus. Oh, now you know this job has bonuses. Maybe you didn't know that going through the interviewing process, right? So the questions that you ask are going to want to be questions that's going to help you make a decision of whether or not this is where you want to work. So those are my two favorite questions that I try to ask when I'm going through an interview myself, or when I'm teaching and coaching others how to answer that questions for them. But also, if you have questions about the role itself, don't be afraid to ask those either. As long as it's not kind of what we talked about earlier, like why is it empty, or how many people have matriculated through it, or anything like that. But just keep it to, tell me about what is day one like in the job. What should I expect on my first day when I come here? What does that look like? Like, ask those types of questions that will give you insight. Because I've worked for some companies that it's my first day, and people act like they didn't even know I was starting. I'm just sitting there. I don't have my equipment, and it's just a waste of time. So you want to know, am I going to be prepared? Are they going to be ready for me on my first day? That's a question you can ask. So think about what's important for you when you're making a decision to work at a company, and incorporate a question that you can ask that will give you that answer when you're closing out and wrapping up your interview.
Perfect. Look here, I am taking notes, I'm going to save this and take notes because these are some gems.
Yes,
Okay,
I try.
so this is going to be the final question from the audience. I have just one or two more things to say, and it's, what about military interviews? Now, this is stemmed towards one of my videos that I did on joining the Jamaican Army. And some of the questions that they asked is basically geared towards you being a leader. And so, how do you structure yourself in a leadership position or answer as a leader, saying that you have leadership skills? How do you answer that type of question?
Sure. So, first, it's going to be important to understand what defines a leader. If you don't know what a leader is or what defines it, then you won't be able to speak to it. So, I would say Google that, Jamaican military leadership, you know, see what are they looking for out of leaders, or what are some things that are important to have as a leader, okay? And so that's where you're going to want to start. So when you find out what those things are, which I can tell you, a leader needs to be a good listener, a leader needs to be adaptable, they need to be able to maintain composure and accept criticism, obstructive feedback without getting defensive. There are a whole lot of things that define what a leader is. So once you understand for the industry or the job that you're applying for how they define leadership, then you'll be able to see, of those things, what do you have? And then what don't you have? What are you not good at? If you know that I don't like when people give me feedback, I get defensive and I get argumentative, then you know what you need to work on, because that's what's going to define a leader. And then you'll know what to speak to when they're asking you that question. Then you also, want to write down examples of when you were that thing. So if we determine that a great leader requires great listening skills, you want to prepare for your interview by writing down an example of a time where you had to give great listening skills. Okay. Remember those tell me about a time behavioral based interview questions we spoke about? Because if you're able to think of a scenario where you gave great listening skills, you want to jot down what was the situation, what actions you took, and what the result was. So when they say to you, you know, what is one of the most important things about being a leader, or tell me the time that you've exemplified true leadership, you can say, one time that I exemplified true leadership is when I really had to hone in on my listening skills. Here was the situation. Here are the actions that I took, and this was the result. And it made me realize that as a leader, just as important as it is for you to be able to communicate clearly, you also have to be able to listen well so that you make sure that you're delivering what the person or the thing that you're leading needs. And so, see, when you do your research ahead of time, you come up with your scenarios ahead of time, you write down your situation, the actions and the results ahead of time, it really prepares you to be able to answer those types of questions, especially when it comes to leadership, when what it requires to be a leader is a competency, like a thing, versus a skill, right? So, like all leaders have to have these things regardless. Skills, some people have them, some people don't, some people good at them, some people are not. Competencies are things that are required regardless of who you are for that thing. So if you're researching leadership competencies, then you should know that everything that's listed as a competency is going to be required for that person to have regardless of who they are. That's different than a skill. A skill is something that you can craft. It's something you could be trained in. It's something that you can perfect. It's something that you can get better and better and better and better at through training. Whereas a competency is universal. Everybody has to have it. So once you know what they are, determine which ones you have, come up with your situations about them, determine your situations, the actions you took, and the results, then you'll be able to speak to it in your interview.
Nice. Nice. I love it. Okay. So we should have touched on this before, but how is it why is it important, or how important it is to be confident in your interview and your body language in the interview? I know this is like an initial question, but I
Mhm.
just want to touch on that because some of us are just finishing college, and so we do get nervous, but how important is your body language in an interview?
Right. So you talked about confidence and body language. And so I'm going to talk about answer body language first. Okay. So you guys see the chair that I'm in. So an example of body language is if I'm doing this in a chair during the interview, that's a problem, right? You want to be mindful of fidgeting. If cell phones, everybody's glued to them now. You don't want to have your cell phone during the interview, even if it's flat. You want to put it face down so that there's no interruptions. You also don't want to be. People have habits of doing this. Like I did an interview and this girl was doing this the whole time and it was driving me crazy. Cracking your knuckles, things like that where you don't recognize it as as a thing because you always do it, but that's body language. Eye contact is extremely important when you're talking to a person. Whoever is asking you the question, you want to make eye contact with them. A lot of people can tell if you're lying because your inability to look them in the eye. So even if you don't want to look people in the eye, but you're like, well, I can think of a few times like that, and you're rocking. It's distractions. You want to be still in your chair. You want, especially if you have on a skirt, ladies, you want to make sure your legs are crossed. Keep your hands flat on your thighs. Or if you're taking notes for some reason because they're asking you to, just be mindful of those things. Make eye contact. The very most important thing that I'm going to say to you about body language is to smile. Smile even when you have nothing to smile about. Let me tell you why. If I say to you, hi, I think you should hire me because I am a great worker and I really like working in the banking industry. I have a lot of knowledge there and I'm happy to apply it to, here. I think I would be a great candidate. Versus me saying, hi, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I think you should hire me because I have so much experience in the bank teller industry, and there's a lot of things that I can bring value to working here. I said it the same thing, the same tone. One was with a smile and one was without the smile. A smile is a nonverbal, you can't do too much of it. You really can't. And when you talk, when you're smiling, you give off a different energy than when you talk when you're not smiling or you're just, talking normal. And it's not that there's anything wrong. It's not that I'm doing anything wrong or I'm saying anything negative. It's just that the nonverbal expressions of my face make me feel boring. It makes me feel mundane. Versus when I smile, there's elevation in my tone because my cheeks are up. I seem excited to be here, and it helps you be engaged. So smiling is a nonverbal that you definitely want to be sure that you're doing. Remind yourself to smile every answer that you give because body language is so important. And if you're a person like me that talks with your hands, that's okay. You can see, like, sometimes I talk with my hands and things like that. In an interview, I try to do this because I know I talk with my hands. So I will cross my hands. That reminds me to keep my hands still and not to talk with my hands. So it's also important to know look in the mirror when you're talking or get somebody to talk to you and ask them, now, in that conversation, what body language did you see me do? What was I doing that was distracting for you? Or ask someone to tell you because some of these things you may not know. I didn't recognize I talked with my hands until I saw a video of myself. And I was annoying myself by as much as I was moving my hands. So now I know that when I'm interviewing or I'm face to face with somebody, I cross my hands like this. And I keep my hands like this to keep myself from being that distraction. So I would say for body language, make sure you get with somebody, go through a test run, just have a normal conversation with them and tell them to say, I'm going to have a conversation with you. Write down kind of what you notice about me. What are the things that I'm doing or what are the things that are distracting that I might do when we're having this conversation? And then be yourself and have the conversation as if you're in a job interview and see what they say. And some of you might be surprised at what they say that you do that you didn't even realize that you were doing. So that's for body language. Confidence. Confidence is so critical because if you don't believe in yourself, they're not going to believe in you. If you don't sell yourself in this interview, why should they hire you if you don't even give them a reason to think that they should? And so I have a video on TikTok that was just a lot of conversation. It's right because a lot of people were like, I don't know if I can do that because I don't have the confidence. And I call it seal the deal because when you're done interviewing, you remember that you said a lot, they said a lot. And if you're confident at the end of this interview that you want to be memorable, you want this job and you want them to remember you, you want to seal the deal. You want to remind them of that. And I get that when it comes to this, I come off very confident because I am confident in myself when it comes to this. So when I can talk about HR, I can talk about things, I can do it confidently because I know my stuff. That's the same thing in an interview. You have to come off confident so that they know that you know your stuff and that you're worth hiring. So you got to shake the nerves off. And the way to not be so nervous is to practice. Interviewing requires practice. You got to practice of what you're going to say, the stories you're going to tell, so that when you're saying it in the interview, it's not the first time you're doing it. And so that confidence plays a critical role. And when I say seal the deal, let me give you an example that's going to be practical for this audience. So I know we didn't get into this in the interview, but a lot of companies will ask you, well, what is the current salary or how much do you want to make, right? And people always don't know how to answer that question. And so I was interviewing a young lady and I asked her that. And I want to say she said like $17 an hour. And that was above what the position paid. The position was maybe like $14 an hour. And she's like, well, I kind of want to get between $16 and $17 an hour. But she didn't just leave it there. This girl made me feel like, where can I go find some more money to pay her this $17 an hour? Because that's how bad I want her. That's how confident she was in her interview. And so when I told her, I said, oh, okay. I said, well, your expectations are a little bit above the range. We're somewhere around the $14, $15 range, but I appreciate that. And I don't want to insult you by, giving you less than what you want. But I definitely want to keep you, active or whatever I said to her. She looked at me and she said, let me tell you, I'm absolutely worth the $17 an hour. And here's why. And she listed off things to me that were problems I didn't even recognize were problems. She was like, because I'm a troubleshooter. When everybody calls you to fix things, I know how to troubleshoot. I know how to figure things out. I know how to initiate. I'm a self-starter. And so I can alleviate your load by the things that I'm able to do based on the experience that I have. You know, when you're hiring people in at $14 and $15, they don't come with those things that I'm able to come with. And so in the long run, it's going to save you a lot more because that's more time that you'll have to work on the things that you want to work on and less time having to do the things that you may have to get somebody else who you're paying $14 for in this. I mean, like, she sold me in her ability in that interview. That's what I'm talking about confidence. She walked in there knowing what she wanted and what she can bring to the table. And in the end of the day, we hired her. And she proved herself in that interview. And it's because when you have a level of confidence like that and you know what you're talking about, people can't help but want to know more or feel like, dang, I want her on my team. What do we have to do to get her on this team? So think about that. Think about that. And I know that we're running, short on time and sealing the deal, but
No,
I would love
fine.
to,
As long as
I
the
would
file is
love
okay
to,
with you,
I just want to
like,
touch on pay a minute because
yes,
people always don't know two things. When they say, what are your salary requirements? Or when they get the job offer and it's like not anywhere near what they wanted. Or if
right.
they want to know what the position pays and they don't know how to ask that. Is it okay if we spend a little bit of time if I
No,
go through that really quickly?
fine. Like,
Okay.
I was only worried about your time, so I'm
Oh
I'm
no.
I'm good.
I just don't want to leave this part off because so many people struggle with money, right? And the compensation piece. So there are three ways. Maybe I won't say three because I don't really know if I'm going to give you three or more, but there are some things that you can do if, number one, you want to know what this position pays before you waste your time interviewing because you want to know, is it worth it? Because if they're only
Right.
going to pay me X, I don't want to waste my time going through this process, right? And the job posting doesn't say the pay. So you have no idea. Okay. A couple of things you can look at to determine that. And I'm assuming this is going to be same for Jamaica because I'm in the United States. But this
Yes,
has
it is.
proved to be pretty true across the board. So it's just another thing that you can look at. The first way you can do is just ask. When the recruiter reaches out to you and says, "Hi, I saw you applied for the role of da 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 da. I want to talk to you about that position," and you're like, "Okay, sure." You have them go through that process, and then at the end of the conversation, you can say to them, I'm excited about what I'm hearing. I just want to make sure that this position aligns with the salary requirements that I'm seeking at this time. Are you able to share for me a range or a ballpark that the position will pay? That's one way
Right.
that you can do it. Okay, just to ask. But if you're nervous and you don't want to ask, or you're not certain, the second thing you can do is look at the job posting. Look at the requirements for the job. Are they requiring 10 years of experience or are they requiring 2 years of experience? Because that's going to tell you a little bit about the pay. If they're requiring 10 or more years of experience, then you can assume that that job is going to be higher paid because they're going to want to pay you for that experience. That's why they're looking for it. If you have 10 years of experience and the job description says that they're looking for 1 year of experience, that's probably not going to pay you what you're seeking to get paid for your 10 years of experience because they're being upfront about you with what they're looking for. So anything that says that they're looking for like a high school diploma or 1 year's experience is more than likely an entry-level job. So those are going to be the jobs for the individuals who don't have that much work experience, who are looking to get their foot in the door in that industry, or who are just getting out of school and they're just trying, or are in school and they're trying to, get some work experience under their belt. You're going to want to apply for those jobs that say 1 year experience, 6 months experience, down somewhere around there. And then that 1 year or that 6 months experience may not be work experience, but it could be volunteerism or things that you've done that align into what they're looking for. Don't think that experience has to be job only. It can be your role in a club at school. It can be being a part of a club at school. It can be volunteering that you did somewhere. It could be something that you did with your church. It can be anything that you executed a skill set in something. It doesn't have to be what you got paid for. So when you're talking in terms of experience, think about everything that you have experience doing. And if it's 1 to 6 months and you have that, apply for the job. But know that the pay is going to be more along the line of entry level. And you can easily Google or go on certain websites like Glassdoor and things like that and kind of see the pay, entry level pay for some jobs. And then you can make a decision that if it's right for you. So you can either ask or you can research and read what's out there. And that's beforehand, okay? So let's say now when the recruiter reaches out to you and they give you a range and they say, okay, the job pays between, 40 and 50,000 a year, or the job pays, 17, or they give you some ridiculous, stupid range, like it's $10 to $30 an hour. Like what? Like $10 to $30, because $20 I might be okay with, but I'm not okay with $10, right? So they give you some crazy range like that. That happens sometimes. As long as the range is within where you're okay with being, go with the interview. Don't ask any more questions about it. Go along with the interview, okay? Because what you can do when you get to the end, when you get the offer, you can negotiate. Now, negotiating is a whole nother topic, and I don't know if you want me to go there, but you can always negotiate, and there are several different ways you can negotiate a salary. I can go there, okay? So if we're talking about that $10 to $30, right, and they come back, and you had your heart set on $20 an hour, you're worth $20 an hour, you have the experience to justify $20 an hour, right? We can't not want it and not be able to show we deserve it, right? But you deserve it. You have the experience, you showcase that. Obviously they like you because they're giving you an offer and they say, we're going to offer you $16 an hour. And you wanted that $20 an hour, ask for the $20 an hour. Counter their offer. Do not accept the first thing that they give you. 90% of the time.
What if like they don't accept it and probably don't even consider you? Because that would be my concern.
Mm-hmm. You mean after the fact?
Yes.
So if they offer you $16 an hour, if they're offering you the job, they want you, right? Okay. So if you don't want to counter offer on the spot, what you say is, okay, $16 an hour, I definitely appreciate the offer. What other benefits come along with the job? So then you want to hear it's $16 an hour. It comes with full medical benefits. It comes with da 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 da. So she goes through everything, with the job, right? So then you might say, okay, well, that's a bit lower than what I was anticipating, right? So you can do one of two things. You can say, can I have a moment to think about it and just give you a call back tomorrow with my decision, right? And then they're gonna be like, oh no, we really want her. I know she's gonna counter offer, or I know he's gonna counter offer. So let me go do my thing, and then call them back with the counter offer. Or if you know immediately that that's not gonna work for you, and you know exactly what you're willing to walk away with, you could say something like, I appreciate the offer. I'm loving all the benefits that you're talking about. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to see if you can meet me where my experience aligns. I had the figure of more like $20 an hour in my mind. Is that something that you think the company would be willing to do? Now, the recruiter could either say on the spot, I appreciate that offer. Let me go back and look. Let me go back and see. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to say, oh, you don't want to offer, then we don't want you anymore. So we take it back. They're not going to do that because they want you. And a part of business is being competitive. Everybody understands that in business. And again, exude that confidence. You ask for the $20, they either say, I'll get back to you, or they tell you on the spot, yeah, $20, that's a bit above where we were, but the absolute best I can go, the authority that I have to go up to is $17.25. Okay, so now we've gone from $16 to $17.25. So you got $1.25 more. It's not where you wanted, but she told you $17.25 is the highest she can go. But you don't stop there. So then you say, okay, I think I can work with $17.25, but do you think that they'll be willing to give me a sign-on bonus maybe to make up for the difference of it? Ask for a sign-on bonus. So many companies are willing to do a sign-on bonus, but people don't ask for it. And all they can tell you is no. And so then, are they willing to do a sign-on bonus considering that I am taking a bit of a pay cut, or considering that I have so much value to bring and I'm willing to meet you at the 1725? I'm just wondering if I could maybe negotiate a sign-on bonus with that. They're either going to say yes or no. And then if she says, no, I'm sorry, 1725 is it, and we really don't have any additional funds to give to this role, you don't stop there. You can say something like, well, I know you mentioned I get a week of vacation. Could I negotiate maybe getting 2 weeks of vacation instead? And then I can take the 1725 with 2 weeks of vacation, since there's no more monetary. But, this is very important to me. And I just want to make sure that what I'm getting out of this is aligned with what I know I'm bringing to you. Ask for vacation time. If you're having to move for the job and they're not willing or able to go any higher than the salary, and they won't give you maybe a sign-on bonus, you can ask for relocation assistance. Can I have time maybe to move, some paid time to move, so that, there's so many things that you can ask for, like sign-on bonus, relocation assistance. You can ask for tuition reimbursement if you're in school right now. I know you can't give me any additional, but I am in school right now. Does the company have any type of tuition reimbursement, or do or is there any way that maybe I can get reimbursed for some of my classes as a part of the benefits? Like, there, you can ask for that. We talked about the sign-on bonus. You can even ask for a performance bonus. So you can say, in a 6 months time, do you think maybe we can evaluate where I am? And if I've proven myself to you, do you think the company at that time would consider bringing me up to the $20? Because I get, you don't know me. This is just an interview. Let me prove myself to you. Do you think that's something that the company would be willing to do? There are so many ways that you can ask for it and position your package. It's just not only about the salary. It's not only about the hourly rate. There are so many other things that companies can offer you that really don't cost them much, that they'd be willing to give if only you'd ask. So always negotiate. Always ask up front when you can about the salary. And if you don't want to ask up front, do your research and see what you can find out about what that position typically pays. What experience are they looking for that will kind of tell you what level you're going to expect to be paid. Those are some of the things that you can do to make sure that you're compensated well and it's worth what you're giving that company.
Nice. Thanks a lot for that.
Sure.
My final question,
Okay.
because I love this. I would go on and on, because, as I said, this is what I love. I love to share, and these
Yes.
are good nuggets. But as I said, my audience has a low amount of experience, and so I want you to tell me, how would I answer a question where I have a low amount of experience, but I still want to sell myself. So give me a scenario that can sell myself with low amount of experience.
Right. You can absolutely sell yourself with a low amount of experience, especially if you know you can do the job. Couple of ways you can do that. Let me tell you what you do. You get the
Okay.
job description. You read the job description. You look at everything that they're looking for in that job description, and you take a highlighter and you highlight everything that you know you can do, right? So you're
Right.
going to go through the job description and you're going to highlight everything. Then on that piece of paper, you're going to write down, what evidence or proof do you have that you can do that? So that's either going to be based on something that you did in school, a project that you did, a research project that you did, or maybe you're in a club or after school program or some type of organization that you're a part of and you're on a committee and they do these things, or maybe you're the president of a chapter of something, like, a sorority or something like that, or maybe like, think about outside of just work, the things that they're looking for in the job description that you can sell yourself on having experience in doing, and write down that scenario. Because what I'm going to tell you is, when you're in that interview and they say, why should you hire me, or why should I hire you? You're going to say, I noticed in your job description, you're looking for somebody with X, Y, and Z. Let me tell you how I've championed these areas. And you're going to walk through those areas you highlighted, giving the examples that you can give. Make yourself relatable to what they're telling you that they're looking for, even if you're a student. There's a lot of ways that you can get experience outside of job, right? So we talked about volunteering, we talked about special projects, we talked about clubs and organizations, anything that you do. Maybe you manage social media for a nonprofit. If you don't have any of that experience, go get some. Go volunteer somewhere. What do you really enjoy doing? Go volunteer. If you know that finance is your background, maybe if you go to church, ask them, can I work with the finance committee? Can I volunteer my time with that to maybe do certain things there? Or if you know that you really enjoy public speaking and you know that this job was going to require a lot of that, maybe then you go to your local schools and you say, can I do reading to the kids, or can I talk to the kids about career day, or things like that. You got to find ways to get yourself that experience so that when you go apply for the job and you don't have the actual work experience, you can speak to what experience you do have that is going to be what they're looking for. And so get the job description, go through and highlight everything that you know you have on a piece of paper. Write down how you know you have it. What evidence do you have? Yeah, you can think that, but people want you to show them that you have it. What do you have? A portfolio of things you've done? Can you get letters of recommendation about people who've seen you in these areas? If you don't have a lot of job experience, create yourself a portfolio where you have letters of recommendation or you have examples of your work, some kind of way, depending on what you're doing, and say, I want to leave you with some examples of my skill set with you, and make a copy for them and leave it at your interview. So those are some of the things that you can do to help sell yourself and get them to know, man, I want her. Like, I want him. I want her. That's how you want to leave every interview.
Wow, I am 100% satisfied with this session. I don't
Awesome.
know about you, but I am 100%
I am
satisfied.
excited. I love the
Yes.
engagement, the questions. This is all great stuff. I'm just so excited that each and every person that took the time to watch this, I am excited for you because you have taken the step to invest in you and be a better you so that you can land that job. And I promise you, if you put into practice the things that we talked about and that we discussed today, if you pour back into yourself, build and develop yourself, remind yourself of the amazing person that you are by writing down those examples of the situations and things that you're doing that aligns with what that job description is looking for, you will kill your interview. You will rock it. You will be memorable, and you will be someone that they will not ever forget. So I employ you, I empower each of you to really take ownership of who you are and go out there and get your dream job. Because you're watching this, because you're invested, you deserve nothing but the best. And I wish that for each and every one of you.
Nice. I just sent your link, your
Okay.
Instagram link in the chat. So if anyone wants to reach out to LaShawn, LaShane, sorry, you can go
No, it's
ahead and
LaShawn. You were right.
is LaShawn? Okay.
Yes.
LaShawn, just reach out to her on Instagram.
Yep.
And let me set it up because I don't see the link popping up. Just reach out to her on Instagram. She has a lot of followers. Persons are there. She has her company. It's called the HR Plug, and
Mhm.
she's all in for the service, right? And
Yes.
I just want to thank you, LaShawn, for everything today. As I said, I am 100% satisfied, and I am
Oh,
so grateful for you being here today. So
oh,
thanks in a million. I can never ever repay the knowledge you have imparted on us.
oh.
And LaShawn is an international speaker today. So I went places, and even though you spoke about, the salary range, which was in the US, we still understood where you were coming from a
Mhm.
high to a low. And so
Mhm.
everything you said today was gain. Gain, it was only
Oh,
gain. So thank you
My
so much.
pleasure. My
Mm,
pleasure. I look forward to connecting with each and every one of you. And I will say publicly to the viewers, I love everything about what you're doing for the community and just helping people be better versions of themselves in doing this. So anytime that you need me, if there's an area that I can help you with, even outside of the show, if you want to
yes.
partner or anything, I am more than happy to assist because I love everything about this talk show. I love the engagement of your viewers, and I am so excited that you gave me an opportunity to be here and speak with you guys today. So thank you equally.
Okay. And then next week, so it's going to be a weekly thing. So next week, as LaShawn mentioned, LinkedIn is the thing. And in Jamaica, we say links run Jamaica, right? So links run Jamaica. And what this means is
Yes.
that you can get a job when you have links, and it doesn't necessarily mean that someone give you something that you don't deserve, but getting building your network can actually land you a job. And
Yes.
so next week I'll be having a speaker, and he is a recruiter. So he will be here to probably recruit, but telling you how to optimize your LinkedIn profile to
Wow.
land certain jobs. Yes.
Great
So
topic.
so
Wow.
see you next week at this time, 5 p.m., where we're going to share how to optimize your LinkedIn profile, get links in Jamaica, and I am big on that because, as you know, where I'm working at now, I didn't go straight into an interview. I actually volunteered there first before I got to that position. And it's basically all my interviews that I went on, they basically failed. But because I volunteered for this position with this organization, I land a post there. And so we're going to show you how volunteering comes in, how we just getting being part of a club, as what LaShawn says. So just all of that, we're going to give you some food, brain food. So
Yes.
so much for staying on, and see you next week. Thanks again, LaShawn. And we're going to
Thank
sign
you.
off. Thank you, thank you. So sign off. Bye, everyone. Bye, my beautiful.
Bye.
Bye, my handsome. Thanks again, LaShawn.
Thank
I'll
you.
definitely text you off air because you see, girl making links.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So
Alrighty.
thanks again, and we're signing off. And bye.
Bye bye.